Today I'm going to make a few appetizers for my football fans. And out of this is 2002 Pillsbury Holiday Appetizers and Desserts. And I will be making these Chinese glazed chicken wings. And also I will be making these sweet and zesty meatballs with peppers and Gouda and walnut tartlets. But first we're going to start with the meatballs and peppers so I can get the meatballs in the oven to bake. Okay, let's get to work. The recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of ground turkey. I don't have any, so I usually don't buy ground turkey, to tell you the truth. I had 2 pounds of ground beef, and that's what I'm using, and that's what the guys like anyway. And there's a measuring thing on the side here, and it called for 1/2 cup of chopped onion, and this comes a little over that, and I figured that's fine for this 2 pounds of beef. Then it calls for 1/3 cup of dry breadcrumbs, and seeing I'm using 2 pounds here, I measured out 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. The recipe the original recipe will be down below in the description. I put all my recipes in the descriptions when I'm cooking here. And then it calls for 1 egg slightly beaten. I debated whether I should use 2 eggs since I had 8 ounces more beef, but I decided against it. So now we mix that up, and it says to form it into 1-inch balls and bake it on a sheet, a 15 by 10 by 1-inch baking sheet. I used my half sheet pan, and I put foil in it. It makes cleanup easier, and I'll just put them on there and bake them. So I'll come back after the balls are baked. The meatballs are out of the oven, so I'm going to put them in my 1970s original rival crock pot. And I'll put the meatballs in here. You can see why I lined the pan with foil, because then there's all this grease and gunk on the bottom. And what I will do is I'll let it cool, then I'll ball this up and put it in the freezer in a plastic grocery bag. And after it freezes on dump day, I'll take it out and send it to the dump. And there will be no smells from meat byproducts. And the same thing with the hamburger packaging. I put those in that bag. Okay, the original instructions say to cook the grape jelly and chili sauce, bring it to a boil, then add the peppers and the meatballs and simmer for 5 minutes. But seeing I'm putting them in the crock pot for the football game, I am omitting the simmering part because it'll be simmering in this crock pot. And it called for a medium green pepper, a medium red pepper, and a medium yellow pepper. The peppers I have found at the store were very large, so I only used a half of each pepper. And now I plug it in and I'll put it on low, and we will continue with the rest of our menu for our football fans. Now that the meatballs are in the crock pot, I'm going to make an Oriental coleslaw. And it has a 1 pound package of coleslaw, 2 bunches of green onions, a cup of sunflower seeds, a cup of slivered almonds, and 2 packages of beef flavored ramen noodles. And the noodles are dry, and you just break them up in here. And then you mix this. And then you just mix this up, toss it together. I have 3/4 cup of oil, a 1/2 cup of sugar, and a 1/3 cup of vinegar. And that's the dressing. Oh, and the beef seasoning packet from the ramen noodles. And then we just toss that up. And then I'll put it in the refrigerator so the noodles will soften up a little bit, not too much. It'll still be a little bit of crunch. And then I'll put plastic wrap on here, and I'll put these in the refrigerator, and so the flavors can marinate. And then I'll be starting my next appetizer. The next appetizer I'm going to do is from this Pillsbury December 2002 Holiday Appetizers and Desserts. And this is my husband's favorite, and that is Chinese glazed chicken wings. So it calls for about 2 pounds of chicken wing parts, chicken drummies. And then you put that on spray foil with non-stick spray. Arrange chicken wings on the sprayed foil and bake for 15 minutes. So they actually take an hour, but every 15 minutes you turn them over. The first half hour they're not glazed, and then after the second time it had been flipped over, then you start glazing it. So it's 15 minutes on each side unglazed, 15 minutes on each side glazed. Okay, the wings are in the oven at 425 degrees. They're on their first 15 minutes. And in here I made the glaze sauce, which the recipe calls for a 1/3 cup of hoisin sauce, which, if you don't know what hoisin is, a 1/3 cup of hoisin sauce, a tablespoon of sweet sour sauce, a tablespoon of soy sauce, a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, and 1 clove garlic minced, or you could use a 1/4 teaspoon of dehydrated garlic. So there's 2 minutes left on the wings on the first side. Then I'll flip them and they'll go 15 minutes more. Then I'll flip them again, and then I'll start putting on the glaze. And it glazes for 15 minutes, turn, and glaze for another 15 minutes, and then they're done. And I doubled the sauce because I'm going to be putting them in the crock pot, and I didn't want them to be dried out. Okay, the next appetizer, last one actually, are these Gouda and walnut tartlets. And it calls for 1 Pillsbury refrigerated pie crust. And we cut that with a 2.5-inch cutter. So this is my donut cutter with the donut hole dealie out of it. It says to defrost it in the microwave, but I've had it out at room temperature, so it's fine. And then cut it with a 2.5-inch round cutter. Cut 12 in each crust, so there'll be 24 total. So I'm going to roll these out, and after we cut them out, what I have to do then is to put them into this mini muffin pan. And I'll do this, and then I will come back and we'll do the filling. Now I have all the crust, the tartlets, in the mini muffin pan. And now I'm going to make the filling. And the filling calls for 2 eggs, and you beat that up, and you add a 1/4 cup of half and half. Then 2 teaspoons of flour and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Salt for a medium bowl. I think a smaller bowl would have done well. I could have used a large glass measuring bowl, and then I would have had a funnel lip to pour into these. Oh well, next time. So I'm going to use this little ladle when I put it in there. You take 6 ounces or 1.5 cups of shredded Gouda and a 1/3 cup of chopped walnuts, and I got to sprinkle that into each one of these. I think next time I'll use a finer grater. So it looks to me like there's about a tablespoon, a tablespoon of the cheese in each one of these tartlets. Oh, you got gypped. You got gypped there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, chopped walnuts. And that's probably, I don't know, a good teaspoonful of walnuts in each one. No, I think I put too much on that one. I'm going to have to share here. It says you can use other nuts as well, like pecans if you wish. Clean up this a little bit and I'll be right back. Okay, now it says to pour sprinkle cheese and walnuts in the cups. Pour egg mixture into each cup. Sprinkle each with roasted red peppers and chives. This is the roasted red peppers and the chives. It was supposed to be fresh chives, and I don't have any. And the chives are supposed to be on the top, but I'm going to put the chives on the bottom so that they can get moistened. Whoops, overboard. That one went a little overboard. Have to clean that up before I put it in the oven. That'll make a mess. So it doesn't take much of the egg mixture. Maybe another tablespoon, I'm thinking. 1.5 tablespoons? A tablespoon and a tablespoon and a half, I'm thinking. Oh, granny, granny. Who got gypped? Yeah, so it's only about a tablespoon per little cup. Let me wipe this off. Alright, and here's a little sprinkle of chive. It called for a 1/4 cup of fresh chives, but I went to the grocery store and I could not find it in our store. When you live in a really rural area up in the North Woods, you're pretty limited in like craft supplies and some specialty baking items, especially in the fresh produce area, because you know, not too many people there to buy it to, you know, for a turnover for them not to go bad before they have to take it off the shelf again. And this is roasted red pepper. Oh, that would be a nice Christmas colors for a Christmas buffet. Okay, now this goes in the oven at 375 for 19 to 22 minutes. I had the leftover pie dough. You can make into little shapes. So I'm going to bake those, and it says to bake them for 7 to 9 minutes. So I'm going to roll those out and cut them with a little star and a little snowman, saying it is still winter here. And I'll show you the end result when I get back, when they're done. And here we have our finished football hors d'oeuvres appetizers. We have the Gouda walnut tartlets, the Asian glazed chicken wings, Oriental coleslaw, and sweet and zesty meatballs. And according to the cookbook, Gouda is a mild nutty cheese from Holland. The yellow semi-firm cheese is aged from a few weeks up to a year. The young Gouda is coated in red wax, and that's what I chose to buy. And it had a red wax around it that when I cut it, it peeled off. And it says the young Gouda is coated in a red wax, while older, stronger tasting Gouda is coated in a yellow wax. And my daughter gets migraines from aged cheese, so we bought the young Gouda, the red with the red wax on it.